Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's doing very well. This is Travis Witherspoon. This is another Monday edition of Trade with Travis. This is the 1st of August. So hopefully everybody's doing very well. Hopefully you end up having a very good trading month. We're going to go through very quickly some of the trades that we end up taking on Sunday. Some of the trades have already done hit and cashed in. Some of the trades have already done hit, and I've already done moved my profit into making some money off of it. I'm going to end up talking about some of the trades that we end up talking about on Sunday, and then also being able to talk about the game plan, what we end up having going into the market opening. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I'm not a CTA, so I'm not going to tell you whether to buy or to sell. What I'm going to do is teach you education, and from that education, you can be able to make your own informed decision. I understand that forex trading involves risk, or just trading in general involves risk. That involves risk of being able to make money, also involves risk of being able to lose money, so please keep that in mind. You understand that past performance is not indicative of future results, which means that if you end up making money yesterday, it's not promised that you end up making money today. So with that being said, I'm going to jump right into it. We're going to take a look at the economic calendar, see what's actually going on today. It's a very light day. Remember, we're at the beginning of the new month, so typically you might end up seeing you may end up seeing a little bit of a U-turn depending on what the market actually ended up doing based off of last month. It actually ended up, if I take a look at what ended up happening with the charts, it ended up having a big move to the downside, and then after that came back and just pushed back to where it actually started. So most of last month was really more indecisive than anything else if you look at it from a long-term perspective. But retail sales end up coming out for Germany. That numbers end up being negative. A little bit later on today, we're going to end up having manufacturing PMIs from the United States dollar. So we have to pay attention to that overall when we take a look at that. But nothing too major when it comes down to what we're looking at. If you would, please make sure that you end up pushing out what charts that you would like to be able to take a look at. I'm going to start off with the U.S. yen. We talked about U.S. yen for us being able to get in on a sale. I actually ended up getting into a sale on this one a little bit earlier. I actually ended up making money off of this one. The market has pushed back actually to the point of where we end up getting in on yesterday. Remember, I believe that this market will end up continuing to be able to fall all the way down to 130. We look at that based off of the hour time frame. Obviously, we don't have a lot of news, a lot of information when it comes down to that. But obviously, you can see if we take a look at what's happening when it comes down to this overall movement, we have this low volume node that we're actually inside of right now. So currently, right now, this is an actual trade that I am interested in getting back into. Like I ended up telling you before, I actually ended up making cash off of this one initially. Currently, right now, looking at being able to place in another order as we get started before 8 o'clock it goes in. So I'm actually about to place in another order on this pair as we speak. So we go ahead and place that in. Stop loss and everything else are going to end up being the same. It's just that now I feel like the market may be ready to be able to move because we're at 8:30. So this will be an instant short. Stop loss on this one I had at 133.15. Take profit I end up having at 130, I believe. I had 130.80, I believe. I want to make sure I'm saying that right. Uh, 130.70. So I'm going to say 130.80. 80. $130.80. This will be a trade that obviously I'm not going to end up risking too much, just because I don't necessarily trade this market as much, but it is worth at least being able to take a shot at it and see what we're looking at when it comes down to this movement. Uh, we are in a position where this market could particularly fall, and it is in where we end up first getting in. I am seeing that the market is starting to consolidate a little bit, so maybe maybe I might jump the gun a little bit too much on this one, but um, if I need to get out of the move, then I'll get out of the move and make the entry at the low of this move at 131.91 if this market ends up falling down. So I'm only going to go with 1% of my account starting off on this one. Like I said, I've already made money off of this one last night because I ended up exiting early. If this one because now it looks like it's inside of consolidation. Now it looked like I made a premature move. Uh, yeah, it looked like it did make a premature move. We're inside of consolidation on this one. Um, okay, so let me rephrase this. If you've already gotten into the trade, if you end up getting into the trade yesterday based off of what we end up talking about in the market falling down, essentially you will be at break even right now. Um, if you did not get into the trade at this particular point, what I would probably end up doing is waiting for the market to possibly be able to break below 132 before actually being able to get in safely. For this trade that I'm already in, I'm already locked in on the price, but I placed myself in right in the middle of this, right in the middle of this consolidation, which is very much stupid because I end up talking about not doing that all the time. Um, I'm actually going to end up. Uh, I'm actually going to end up exiting off of this trade. I'm at break even, so there's no reason for me to be able to. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get out of that. Okay, so I'm going to adjust this a little bit. Let me tell you why I'm adjusting this. One, we've seen that the market ended up falling down, but we also end up seeing that the market ended up going into the market has shown consolidation on the 15-minute. Instead of fighting with everybody else on the inside of this, I'm going to end up placing my trade on the outside of this and making a pending order now. Uh, yeah, I may be giving away some when it comes down to this overall movement, but I know that if this market does break down to the downside, I am getting into the trade right when the market is expected to keep on moving to the downside instead of fighting with everybody right before the market opens at 8:30. My order on this one, I know I'm giving away about 30. I know I'm giving away about 30 pips to be able to do that, but I'm totally fine with being able to do that. My order will be at 131. Will end up being basically at 132. Um, stop loss. Um, stop loss. I'm going to go above the point of control. They got 132.46, so I'll be risking about 50 points. 132. I'm going to say 132.50 just to be safe. I'll be risking 50 points to be going out to 130.80. Um, I'm actually fine with that. I actually like that trade a little bit better just because the market has proven to show you what the actual location is, where you need to get out. Remember, when I end up talking about this all the time, obviously when a high volume node is actually created or when a high volume node is actually being shown, sometimes you may have to readjust your numbers just because it's actually giving you a area where to be able to get in and be able to get out. So instead of fighting with everybody, there goes my new order right there. So if it does break to the downside, then I'm getting into the order right when the market breaks. And then after that, hopefully we'll be able to have some free movement as the market ends up moving to the downside off of that. So that is my that is my new adjustment when it comes down to this move. I give away 30 points to be able to get into a vortex area, unfair market price area before anything else. Pound yen, let's take a look at it. We still have this order that we're looking at being able to get in. I have it at one. I should have wrote this number down. I have it at 160.40. 160.40 stop loss. It's going to end up being at 161.29. Take profit. It's going to end up being at 159.95. What we're trying to go after is this low volume node right here, or this little pocket that we want to be able to see. Basically, end up making a double bottom. This market ends up falling all the way down to here to match up with what's happening with this overall movement. I think this is more consolidation than anything, but if it does fall down to that area, then obviously you get something like that before being able to, uh, as the market is baking this move. So that would be what we ended up talking about earlier when it came down to that movement. Um, as my boys pop in, hold on for a second. Like always, this is a family affair, so come here, say hey, or say good morning. Say good morning. No. No. You ain't gonna say good morning? Yeah. Say good morning. Look, say good morning. No. Alright, you terrible. Alright. Let's say good morning. Good morning. There we go. Go upstairs, mom. What's that? No. You cannot have any chips until a little bit later on today. Okay? What's that? No. You're about to get breakfast. So let's go ahead and take a look at US 30. Let's see what's happening with that. Um, Talking about indices from this point moving forward. If you have any pair that you would like to be able to take a look at, obviously be able to type that down in the chat box. We will go over it as we take a look at it. So remember, yesterday we ended up placing in a pending buy stop at 33,305 with a stop loss of 33,140 and a take profit of 34,310. Now, obviously, we got a little ways to go before that actually ends up hitting. And the one thing that I do not like is the weeklies and the weeklies in the sell zone. So if we never get this entry, then I'm totally fine with that. But I would get into the entry right when it ends up breaking past this little portion of a high volume node, and then after that, go after this area right here, 34,260. I'm sorry, 34,310 when it comes down to that position. Uh, but if we take a look at it from a Fibonacci perspective, the market is just retracing as it's going through its retracement. It has not hit the 618 as of yet. It is pushing up to the 618, which will end up being at 33,230, in which it has a little bit of room to be able to go up to the upside. Last week, um, let's look at gold. Okay, let's take a look. We'll take a look at that. Um, and as we end up taking a look at that, I want to make sure we need to do that before 8:30. Well, actually, we need to do that before 8:30. So I'm going to speed up on this. Um, Take a look at this from a daily perspective. Market is in the sell zone, so I do expect that the market may end up falling down. So if I do not get triggered into this trade on US 30, I'm totally fine with that. We see that we're basically we end up making the money based off of this move last week from this low volume node to this high volume node right here. Currently, right now, we do have an indecision candlestick starting off at the beginning of the week. This may end up starting off to be a indecision candlestick, and it may end up turning into an evening star. So keep in mind, there's no trade on US 30. In particular until we end up getting some confirmation of being able to break past this high level of consolidation that we end up having going from May 27th all the way until June 10th. Once it ends up breaking past that level, then after that we have a trade to be able to take. Until then, I'm not doing anything off of US 30. I'm going to jump into and talk about gold real quick because 8:30 is here, or 8:30 is about to be here. And typically gold moves a little bit faster during the Forex session instead of the US session. Here we go. We take a look at what's happening with gold from a weekly perspective. And this is just me talking, so just keep that in mind. The market has been going on a phase. It had this large scale consolidation where the market ended up finding support at 1685. Me personally, because the market is in consolidation on this move, I would personally not take a move. That's me personally, just because I don't like trading inside of high volume nodes or trading inside of consolidation. But you could make a case that as this market basically is starting to progress from this support level, which is right here, that it could push up at least to the halfway level, which would end up being right around 1870 or right around the 1850 area. So if I'm targeting anything, KM Web, if I'm targeting anything, it'll probably end up being the halfway point. I would not try to go after the resistance. I will wait to be able to see if the market can be able to break out of this overall consolidation area before being able to make a move off of this. But if you are getting into a trade, I would say the trade will look at being at buying. Uh, but remember, we're in the middle of consolidation. To me, there's only two rules when it comes down to consolidation. You want to buy at support or sell at resistance. Everywhere else does not matter. FRMA, what's going on? Hope everything's going well with you. You have a pair that you want to be able to take a look at. Go ahead and place that in, and we'll be able to go from there. KM Web, hopefully I end up answering your question. If you're looking at any trade, I would look at being able to buy. We're taking a look at it from a daily perspective. The weekly is in the buy zone, so that's a very good thing to be able to take a look at. We take a look at what's happening with the daily. The daily is a little bit overbought. And the one thing that I do notice is that I don't think there's been a true counter trend line break that has happened at this particular point yet. No, there hasn't. So I think the market could potentially keep on moving up to the upside, and then after that, try to push up to this high volume. Push up to the counter trend line break. But until it breaks, the market is still considered to be bearish. So for me, I'm not taking any trade on this one. I will stay away from gold. Hopefully that answers your question. Let's take a look at German 40. German 40 was the trade that I said that I thought had the biggest upside when it comes down to movement. This week, we take a look at what's happening. The weekly, The weekly is in a no trade zone, but we clearly see a movement to the upside. We talked about how this market ended up making a double bottom, where the market ended up falling down to right here, pushing back up, and then falling down to right there. And then after that, obviously, it's pushing back up as well. So that's given us an opportunity to be able to say that this market could continue to be able to move up to the upside. What we're trying to target is this area right here, from 15130 all the way up until where this high volume node cluster actually starts to begin. Remember, the one thing that I've been telling everybody, especially in the summer months, is that we're not trading high volume nodes, we're trading low volume nodes, we're trading in that space in between. We want to be able to exploit that area. If you exploit that area, what you're going to end up doing is actually finding out that you're going to end up getting in better, more high quality trades without much of a headache. And if you're wrong, you can be able to find out that you're wrong early by being able to adjust the overall stop loss, kind of like what we did with US yen. As I end up getting out of that trade and readjusting, what I end up doing for was that move. Okay, so currently, right now, if we take a look at it from a daily perspective, the market is done broke out of 13, has broken into 13,350. The market has triggered in our trade at this particular point. What I'm looking at now is that we are above the consolidated area, which is good, but we didn't have that big of a push to the upside. And I don't think that we probably won't have a big push to the upside until about 9:30. Now, if this market falls back inside of consolidation, I'm going to exit out early, and then after that, I'm going to re-enter the trade, basically going after the new highs, which will end up being at 13,560 if this market does fall back inside of consolidation. Remember, if it falls back inside of consolidation, you get out. You just wait for the market to be able to fall back to support and try to come back out and try to break out of this overall area. If that does happen, then you have a good quality trade. If it doesn't happen, then you just get out. You take the quick loss. You just move on. There's nothing wrong with being able to take small losses if you end up getting large gains. That is the benefit of being able to understand what a consolidation area actually is. So if this market falls back inside of this consolidation, especially if it breaks below this point of control, then there's no reason for us to be in this trade, at least for right now. We can adjust the overall consolidation area, and then after that, get out after the market ends up breaking that new high. So if you are in the trade, that will be the game plan when it comes down to that. Obviously, our stop loss is at 13,450. 450 is all the way down. It's actually at the bottom of it. Is at the bottom of this consolidation. But if you don't want to sit up there and give away that full percentage then you can wait to be able to see how this market kind of reacts, shorten it off, and then after that, get back in at a better price. But there we go, right there. Take a look at silver. Let's take a look at silver. Let's see. US 30, we already talked about. Pound yen, we already talked about. US yen, we talked about being able to place in the trade. We adjusted the numbers. That's at 132 now with a stop loss. I'm going to write this down so everybody can be able to see it. Let's see. Until stop entry 132. Stop loss of 132.50. Take profit. What did I have a take profit? What did I have a take profit? I'm looking at which one? I'm looking at US yen. No, that is US yen. Um, 130.80. Sorry. All right, so there we go. When it comes down to that, that is the orders for that price as we end up taking a look at being able to get in off of that entry. Let's see. Let's take a look at silver real quick. Man, I haven't traded silver in a while, so I'm going to adjust everything that I have because it's been a while since I took a look at it. Let me clear the screen and be able to go from that. Um, All right, so this is what we know. One, the market broke out of consolidation to the downside. Um, the second thing is anytime that there's a breakout, typically there end up being a retest. So the market broke out right here, it retested, and then after that, it ended up rejecting and falling down to the bottom again. There is the D extension when it comes down to this movement. Let's see, 27, 27, 144, 27, 144. Okay, so the market, I said 27,144. The market did not go up to the 786, so that means that the extension is expected to be down at 1672 or 1676 for its overall downside movement. Currently, the market is in an R3 movement, meaning that the market is expected to fall down until it completes the extension move right here. Um, So as this market is moving to the downside, my thought process would be, okay, well, let's find high prices so we can be able to sell. The weekly is in the buy zone. Now, keep this in mind. Once the market ends up going into consolidation, the stochastic does not really truly matter because it has to reset itself to be able to truly be able to work. So when you're looking at consolidation, stochastics, MACDs, and everything else like that, in my personal opinion, do not work very well. And so that would be the first thing that I end up saying when it comes down to that. Obviously, we just need to look at what's happening when it comes down to the overall movement when it resets. We take a look at this based off of a daily perspective. We can clearly see that the market found a low and then after that started to push back up. We do have a true counter trend line break when it comes down to that movement to the upside. Uh, and currently, right now, if I'm doing anything for us being able to make any type of move, it would be looking to be able to sell. Here's your outer trend line right here. Here's your inner trend line right here. Remember, when the market ends up breaking the inner trend line, they will gravitate towards the outer trend line, and then after that, there's a decision that needs to be made. Because the market is moving parabolic to the upside, that means to me that the United States dollar index is basically weak. I'm going to take a look at the United States dollar index just to be able to confirm that. But that would be my thought process on what I'm actually seeing with this market overall. Um, Currently, right now, is there a trade to be able to make? Me personally, would I do anything based off of this movement? No. I would not do anything based off of this movement because obviously we see that the weekly's going down, but we also end up seeing that the market has popped up to the upside. So we don't have time frame alignment. Um, so there's really no trade to be able to take at this point that would make sense. So I'm going to stay away from gold. I will stay away from silver at this particular point in time until the market ends up pushing up and breaking counter trend line break. The market is in the sell zone, but it's not ready to be able to move yet. So Juan, hopefully that answers your question. Uh, there's really no move to be able to take off of that move at this particular point yet. Um, Take a look at the United States dollar index. Okay, so no problem. So as we take a look at the United States dollar index, the market from a weekly perspective obviously is pushing more to the downside. We can be able to clearly see that. What ended up happening was that when the market was going through its ABCD phase, it only fell down to the 236 or 23% of its actual movement forward retracements. What that truly means is that the market is not healthy. Typically, the market will be healthy if the market falls down to the 382. Because it has not fell down to the 382, typically what will end up happening is that you will end up seeing a lot of pressure when it comes down to sellers right around the 127. And that's exactly what ended up happening. This is called an 80-20 rule. When the market ended up pushing up, it ended up getting close to 13,204, but it actually ended up rejecting from that number. We can see that the market's starting to push down. I'm pretty sure if we take a look at what's happening with the stochastic is in the no trade zone. So weekly is to the downside. We take a look at the daily. The daily is pushing to the downside, but I'm pretty sure it is oversold at this particular point. Yes, it is. So what ended up happening from here was that from a daily perspective, the market got 95% of the way to the D extension. So I'm going to call that as being completed, which means that we'll end up having a new field to be able to work off of. But with that being said, United States dollar index is pushing bearish, and because it is pushing bearish, and because we are in the buy zone, me in particular, would there be a trade that I would look at from a United States dollar perspective that would make sense for us being able to get into um, from a long term perspective? That answer will be no. Every trade that you would do at this particular point would need to be a scalp when it comes down to United States dollar index pairs. Now, I can see a channel that's starting to be built up just a little bit. I don't know if anybody can be able to see that, but I can see a small channel that's being built up from right here to let's try that over again. From right here to right here, and I just think that it's hitting the support of that channel. If it breaks to the downside, then obviously we end up having a strong downside move overall. Clearly, right now, if I'm going based off of the way that I end up projecting these lines, the market has broken to the downside, but I think that we're probably about right there when it comes down to the overall move at this point. So we are in the decision area on how this market is going to end up moving. Um, I would not look at buying on the United States dollar index. So any people that like any people that like trading Euro, United States dollar, USD, and everything else like that, I'll probably sit on my hands when it comes down to one of those trades because it may not necessarily be there just because the market is a little bit oversold at this particular point. If we would have caught it 11 days ago, you probably would have been in a better move. But the market is in the sell zone. Go figure. When it comes down to the daily, when it comes down to the stochastic, so you may end up seeing some further downside movement overall. So Euro-based pairs, United States dollar-based pairs. The weekly is showing that the market is moving to the downside. The daily is showing that the market is moving to the downside, but the market is a little bit oversold, in my personal opinion. Uh, so I would be looking at sales, but it will only be scalp trades. It would not be anything else like that from a long-term perspective. Uh, that is pretty much it from my end for the pairs that I ended up taking a look at. I'm gonna stay on for a couple more minutes if there's any pairs that anybody would like to be able to take a look at. For the people that are watching live, I do appreciate that. We talk about my automation systems and see what's actually happening with the automation systems. I ended up taking a trade on US 30 with the automation system. Um, let's see, US 30 ended up no better. Uh, US 30 end up. Come on, you gonna say hey? Oh, okay. Say hey, at least. Uh, US 30. We end up taking some crossover trades. I'm gonna show this on the screen real quick. US 30 actually ended up doing. Actually ended up doing 92, 185, and 399 this morning. End up doing 92, 185, and everything else like that. The reason why I got out was because I seen this double top, and we talked about it earlier. There's really no trade because of this high volume node that's actually about to start. So got out of that one real quick. Made a quick move off of that one when it came down to that trade. Um, every other trade that I'm looking at this particular point, obviously we talked about DAX. DAX is starting to fall inside of consolidation. I don't like that. Like I said, if DAX falls inside of this consolidation and breaks below this overall point of control, then after that I would get out of that trade early and I would just reset my limits when it comes down to that. So I'm down on DAX right now at this particular point, but I will not.
What's push hand picker?
Give me 1 second, okay? I got one more chart to go over, okay?
What's the hand? What's the hand picker?
Yep.
Here.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Go play with Mason. Euro pound. Let's take a look at that real quick. Like I said, with German 40, I may end up exiting out of that trade a little bit early, just based off what I'm looking at. If it doesn't show signs that it's going to end up basically giving a U-turn and falls back inside of this consolidation, then I'm not going to waste my time on it. I just re-enter the trade once it ends up breaking out of that area. We'll have a true defined number where the actual resistance is if it keeps on falling this way. So I'm going to give it a couple more seconds, but I may end up exiting out of that trade early overall. But we'll take a look at Euro pound. Euro pound will be the last trade of the day. And we will go from there. Let's see. Mason, get out of here, baby.
My dad.
Mason, get out of here, baby. All right, Euro pound. From a weekly perspective, it's showing the same thing that we end up taking a look at with silver. To be honest, we got this large scale consolidation. Answer this question, um, VJ. Answer this question. In what particular direction are you looking at trading this? Are you looking at buying? You looking at selling? What's the thought process? I have my overall opinion, but my question to you is, what direction would you look at being given to make this move off of? DAX, I'm out. DAX, I'm out. I'm going to go ahead and get out of DAX. I'm not going to end up wasting time on that. There's no reason to sit up there and waste any time on that movement. I'll come back in on that one. Okay, you're hoping for a buy. Okay, now obviously from a weekly perspective, you can clearly see that we have a large scale consolidation from this weekly perspective. Anytime that the market is inside of consolidation, my thought process is basically get out of here, basically out of here, out. My thought process always when it comes down to consolidation is that you want to look at buying at support, you want to look at selling at resistance. Everywhere else does not matter. So in this case, if you're looking at being able to get in for it, being able to buy, it will probably end up being right around the let's see. There goes your natural supports. Right. Here. We're looking at that number. I will look at being able to buy right around 83.15. 83.15 will end up being the area where I will look at being able to buy if I'm only trying to buy to support and trying to get out of this move. Now, one tip that I will say that could help you out when it comes down to your thought process on being able to trade this move would be this. Let me exit out of these. Exit out of those. One thing that I will end up saying based off of this movement, when it comes down to this, and I think I said the same thing when I was talking to Kay and Webb, was that you take a look at this move because we are at support. If this market does bounce at this support level, and you end up getting into the buy, then my take profit will be at the midpoint. It will not be going after the resistance. It will only be going to the midpoint of these overall prices. So if you do look at being able to get in when it comes down to that movement, it will only be towards the buy. Me personally, I would not do anything with this move. I would not do anything with Euro pound until it actually ends up breaking out. It's unproven for almost 5 years that the market is going to end up remaining to be inside of a consolidation area. So the only move would be trying to catch it right around the 8,300 area, 83.15. And then after that, look at being able to buy it all the way up to 87. But it's going to take some time to be able to get up there. Typically, Euro pound typically moves slow. So that would be the move that I would end up taking a look at and being able to go from there. But me personally, would I personally do anything? Me personally, no. But to each his own when it comes down to that. Hopefully that makes sense when it comes down to that trade. Let me tell you why I got out of DAX. Talked about it just earlier. Market has fell back inside of consolidation, had a strong push to the outside. I got out right when the market ended up breaking this point of control. Obviously, our stop loss was at 13,450. Currently, right now, the market's at 13,459, 495. All that means to me is that now we know where our new limit needs to be, so we're going to adjust the overall take profit or adjust the overall entry to where it's going to end up being right here now, just above these overall highs at 13,565, with our stop loss now being at the point of control. So if it does break to the downside, it's going to end up being just below the point of control from there. So I will adjust those numbers. There's no reason to sit up there and chase this market, at least not yet. Um, if we're wrong, like I said, get out early and then after that readjust and then make a move from there. Um, but other than that, um, but other than that, that's it for overall. That's it for today. I hope everybody ends up having a good trading day. Obviously, I'm up right now at this particular point. The DAX trade didn't help me out as much as I thought it would be, but hopefully we can be able to get back into it. If we have this strong movement to the downside, that may end up meaning that the market may end up falling. Who knows? But that's why we trade. We trade to be able to figure out what the market movement is going to end up being. Like always, if you like what I end up doing, please make sure that you end up clicking on that boost button so everybody else can be able to see this video. Share this video out with other people, and also if you want to be able to hop inside of our Carter Cow Academy, you can go to cartercowcapital.com/start here. Once again, cartercowcapital.com/start here, as my sons are screaming. If you go to my profile page, you end up seeing a link. If you click on that link, then I'll personally get in contact with you, talking about what I end up doing from an everyday perspective, for what's being given to trade, the automation systems, and everything else like that. End up going from there. Like always, plan your trade your plan. Everyone, have a good trading day. Have a great trading week. Take it easy.